I want to propose a serious question. When is the last time you've seen a manufacturer come out with something new, exciting, different, something that could completely change the landscape of an area that you're interested in? Well, today, I think, is one of those days. Boom. Enter the Nomad Cook System. Now, this was sent to me for review, but even before this came out, I've been looking for an electric stove for the back of our 4Runner for a long time. Actually, for overlanding in general or camping. See, we use all sorts of gas stoves. I've used propane, all sorts of Coleman stoves. I'm kind of a collector, actually, of single and dual burner, so I have used all of those. And I have an MSR Dragonfly. I've used MSR Pocket Rockets. I've used all sorts of things. And they always come down to a few problems. One, I have to source fuel before we go or keep it on hand. And two, they're a bit fiddly for my wife. Because let's be honest, when the wife goes with me, which is almost every time now, she's not into the cool factor of the gear like I am. I nerd out on these things, right? When we get a new stove, I sit there and I play with it. Oh, how fast does it boil? And how do I set it up quickly? And what can it do? And what can't it do? And I do all these things. She's not that way. She just wants to open it up and use it. So in our trips, I've been trying to look for something that when we go on trips will be easy for her to use so that we can just get along with the cooking, get the chore out of the way so we can continue to enjoy our adventure. And I've been looking at induction stoves, but to be honest, nothing piqued my interest. They're all the same. They're all flat. They're all just a plate of glass with some touch buttons on the top that give you a whole bunch of readout information that you really don't need. And there's nothing cool about them. I'll put it that way. But also, like, packing them is kind of a pain because they're kind of a big plate of glass, right? And it's just, I don't know, nothing about them really piqued my interest. But when Stoke Voltage got a hold of me and asked me if I'd look at this, I said, well, heck yeah, that looks completely different. So, what is it? Well, it's a complete cook system. You have a pot and a pan, and they call this thing the reactor. That's kind of a cool name. But honestly, it uses 1,000 watts of power. So you need an inverter and you need a battery system that can support it. That's going to be the caveat for some of you. For me, I have 200 amp hours of lithium battery in the 4Runner, and I have a 1,200 watt pure sine inverter. This had zero issues running on that, I'll tell you right now. And we actually went camping with this. This is not an unboxing because unboxings are lame. Let me show you the actual thing. And here is the stove of the future. Says me. Real quick, what you get, this is called the reactor. This is your base. This is what your pots and pans go on. Talk about more of that in a minute. Here is what they're calling a pan. It's kind of an odd shape. You can see the base is very thick, like we're talking about that thick. I think they have the burner built into the base, or the heating element. I think this is induction cooking, and I think they've built it into the pan. This is why this is shaped. Campfire is going. We're here. Typical us. It's very, very dark, so this will be a good test. How does the stove work for us since, yeah, we're not in daylight and we're kind of rushing to make dinner now, which is kind of normal for us, right, Helen?
That's very normal for us.
Unfortunately. You get a pot with it, and again, same burner built into the base. You get a lid, of course. It has a nice cutout for the handle, which the handle is super trick. I'll show you that. And you can strain with it. And, of course, the lid fits both the pots and the pan, which is super nice. The power cord. This is one of the nicest power cords I've ever seen come with any device, honestly. They put some money into this stuff. It's not the cheapest way to do this, I think, but it sure works well. And we took this thing camping. The reason it's out of the box, guys, is we went camping with this thing and actually used it. We've cooked a few meals on it already. That's why it looks the way it does. But also, props to you, Stoke Voltage, for using a standard power cord connector. Instead of making something proprietary where we have to order it if it breaks, you can go to any store basically and pick up one of these. Big, big thumbs up for that. Also, you get one of the coolest handles I've ever seen. Locks on there. To unlock it, you have to slide the handle over once and press the button. That's cool because, like, we have kids, right? Or we have a kid now. And, you know, a kid could come up and mess with this. But this way, if your brain is rattled because you're working with the kid or something's going on and you need to pull the handle off, you don't accidentally press this and release it, right? Press the lever and release it. You have to do a two-step function, which is quick. But that two-step function, it's just a safety thing. We like it. Handle works great. Zero problems there. The only thing I saw with this kit that I didn't like, or one of the main things, when I opened it at least, was Stoke, you need to pay attention to a little bit of your manufacturing. The glue came unglued on this little shield PC right here. It's really for a beauty thing, so I'm probably just going to take it off, but that's one mark. That's a down. So how did it work? I gauge that by a few factors now when we're looking at stove systems. And I say we because my wife and I both go. So I have to take into account how well something works for her. I'm a bit of a nerd when it comes to gear. I love gear. I love playing with it. I love getting into the details and the technicalities of it and what it will do and won't do. My wife is not the same. She just wants to take it and hook it up and use it. She doesn't care. That's why the MSR Dragonfly, it's a love-hate relationship for her. She likes cooking on the stove because it cooks really well for a gas stove out while you're camping. She hates the setup. Hates the setup. It's a huge pain for her. It gets in the way. It prevents her from doing what she wants to do because she dreads setting that thing up every time we have to use it. I will say with this, zero issues when it comes to that. So how do I gauge a good stove? How fast and easy is it to set up? Is it intuitive? How well does it cook? Like how evenly does it cook? And are there any potential issues that would stop you from using it on a daily basis? Because remember, we're talking about camping and overlanding here. You got to put this thing away and pull it out every time you want to use it. So, ease of use. This gets 5 out of 5 stars all the way. My wife, basically with very little instruction, right? I asked her, hey, can you use this? She didn't look at the instruction booklet. She just saw the pieces and she said, okay. And she found out where this piece goes, plugged it in, turned our inverter on. I told her this is your button, push and turn. That's how you control things. And she was off, literally seconds. It took longer probably for the inverter to go from off to on than it did for her to actually start cooking on this thing. And she liked that. Guys, she even she wore our 6-month-old son in a sling while cooking in this thing out in the wilderness. And that's awesome. I mean, that's how confident she was. It's safe, right? I mean, I guess that's another feature we could talk about is how safe it is. But she didn't have this fear of this flame coming up and having to do all these things to get the stove to work. She literally said, okay, we're going to cook Toscana soup tonight, which that's one of those meals we cooked. She popped the plate on here, threw her butter in, did her thing, and then started cooking and started going after it and just started adjusting the heat as she needed down here. And it worked so well for that. Now, I will say we are only 2 to 3 meals in on this thing, so we will do a long-term review. But this is our initial impressions on it, and everything looks good because it's new, it's exciting, but it's dead simple. The pan, the next day we cooked on the pan, and we thought these little ribs were going to be an issue because we like cooking pancakes and stuff in the morning. Not an issue at all. It cooks very even for what it is, and very well. She cooked pancakes on, I think it was low setting. So it has a couple settings. I should go over that. When you first plug it in, it's going to come up. You press the button to start it, and then you turn it, and it's going to go 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. The 2 is what they call simmer, 4 is low, 6 is medium, 8 is medium high, 10 is full blast high. And basically it's just by wattage settings. That's it. I mean, you basically have low through high, and that's how you cook. I don't know. There's not a whole lot to say about it. I mean, the lid was a lid. It worked right. It just worked well. That's all I could tell you about it. We had zero fuss with it. Not fussing with something. You know what? I'm finding out when it comes to overlanding, camping, going out and exploring, the more I have to fuss with a piece of gear, the more I hate it. Whether it's cool or not. If I have to take something out and fiddle with it for 5 minutes to get it to work, I don't like it anymore. I just want to go out and do our thing. That's what I want to do. I just want to go out and do our thing. And so far, this allowed us to do it. Let me plug it in here real quick for you, and I'll show you what it looks like on boot up. So again, you have a real rubber plug in the back. You could take this thing and plug it in. And that's what you get when it turns on. You get the cool little thing, press the button. It wants you to put something on it, and I don't recommend you do it like this, but we'll do it like this just for you guys. So there you go, and then it starts, right? And here's all your controls. The other cool thing is it has a little timer on there, which is super neat. We also found out, see if you take it off, it pauses. put it back on, resumes at whatever power watt I had it set at. Neat. See, and I can already feel just those few seconds. That's already warm to the touch, right? Like quite warm, actually. So it heats up quick. There are a few things that we don't like about this. One, it would have been nice if the pan was a little bit shorter on the lip here. It's a little weird getting a spatula in here to flip things.
So one thing I don't like about it is the edges. It's not flat like a pan.
Oh yeah, it's too deep.
It's very deep.
I could see that being a problem.
Yeah, because it's going to be hard to get a purchase on that.
It's not terrible. It's just a little strange because this lip is just a bit taller than what you would normally deal with on a pan. And looks are deceiving. It looks tall on the outside, but it's actually quite short on the inside. We're talking maybe 2 inches total. But it's just kind of weird because I think a normal pan is somewhere around 1.5 inches. So that's something that I would like to see changed.
I'm afraid this part's not done enough.
You don't think so?
Maybe. Oh, there's.
Oh, yeah.
He's like sourdough pancakes.
Yeah. I mean, except for reviewing longevity, I can't really say a whole lot about this thing that's poor. I mean, you get your pot, you get your pan. That's good enough for most of us when we're cooking. And you get the reactor base, the control base, and your lid. I think the only way you can make this setup better is if you actually had 2 of these. And I think, Stoke, if you are listening to this and you watch this video, I think you should come up with a kit that comes with 2 reactors. And then you can have a pot and a pan along with it. That way you can run 2 of these side by side and you get like a 2-burner type of situation going on. That'd be super cool. Lastly, I want to touch on the power requirements. So obviously we know this thing runs on 1,000 watts of power, but what does that really mean when you're out in the country, out you're exploring, and you're running off battery packs? So in our 4Runner, we have 200 amps of lithium battery at our disposal, and we have a 1,200 watt pure sine wave inverter. The pure sine wave inverter at 1,200 watts ran this with zero issues. Didn't complain at all. Yeah, the fan kicked on, and when I looked at the inverter to see how much this was drawing, it said about 900 watts. So it was pretty close to the 1,000 watt rating. My inverter could be off, this could be a little lower, whatever, but it was pretty close to that, and my inverter handled it with no issue on 2 separate mills, 2 completely different cooking cases. I mean, my wife had this thing cranked up to 1,000 watts. We were boiling water and trying to brown meat, and we had this thing filled like almost to the brim with soup, and it was boiling it and doing a great job. So the fact that it could handle that and it didn't trip my inverter means that they have this rated appropriately and can actually cook at 1,000 watts. It's usable. But during that time, we ran a fridge for about 36 hours. I have a fridge mounted in the 4Runner. We cooked this, 2 separate meals with this, one for 45 minutes, and then the morning meal we cooked for about a half an hour. We did that, and then we boiled water for coffee off of a separate system, a kettle that Stoke Voltics makes. We really like the kettle, by the way. We use it a lot, but we made coffee off of that. I think that's all we used for power. Final pancake.
Final cake.
Lost it.
Ooh. All right, I'm ready to eat. Yeah, that's it.
Oh, great.
Now it's off.
Now I just gotta wait for it to cool off.
Anyway, in total, we used 5% of the battery pack in a 36-hour period actually cooking with this system. So it's not outside the realm that you can use an electric stove to actually cook. I always thought it was, because I was looking at 2,000 watt induction cookers, and by math, 200 amp hour lithium battery is not big enough to cook on those things. You need really a 400 amp hour or more, and you need a much bigger inverter, and I just don't have that, and I don't have the space for it in the 4Runner. So this system works perfectly. I guess this is not the last thing, because packability is a thing, and it packed away fine in our 4Runner. I pulled out something that we're not going to use anymore, and this packed away perfectly. I just kind of shove it in here like this. I take this guy, I put it in here, the lid gets pushed next to it on the drawer, and then I just put the wire and the handle next to it, and that's how it goes. For us, it sits in sideways like that. No problems riding like that as far as I can tell. And I mean, pack it however you want it. To be honest, if you don't want the pan, you don't necessarily have to have the pan. You could just roll with the pot, and then most everything except for the handle would fit in there, including the, you know, the lid. It's a cool system, guys. It's not just cool. It works well. It works well for our use case, because while I'm nerdy about stoves and I like playing around with them, my wife is not, and my wife does most of the cooking when we go camping. I mean, I will help out and I'll do certain meals that I like to cook, but she's the one who gets in there and just cooks quick meals so we can get back on the road or get back to whatever we were doing. And having a system that doesn't use fuel, so I don't have to remember about having fuel or matches or lighters, or I don't have to worry about wicks, or I don't have to worry about pumps and seals, and I don't have to worry about things, right? Granted, you could argue that you could worry about the electronics in this. That's a thing. But really, if reliability is not a problem, I mean, electric is really the way to go. And for us in the 4Runner, that means I don't have to have a separate fuel source. We just take the 4Runner. The batteries are charged in the 4Runner after we drive. This thing will cook off the 4Runner just fine. And if you have a solar panel like we plan to have in the future, but if you have solar, then you're even more efficient, because now you can sit in one place for a very long time and cook your meals. So do I recommend it? So far, 2 thumbs way up. I do recommend it. This is an initial review. We have only cooked 2 meals on it. We've only gone out for 1 night and 1 morning in it, but we really like it. We believe at this point it's going to be our main and probably our only stove going forward, because it was so easy and simple and safe to use. Not having an open flame means you can cook with this anywhere. There's no restrictions, right? You can go to any national park, any forest, any desert. No restrictions on cooking with this. I can't say that about gas stoves. Sometimes you have restrictions where you can take those. And, oh, this too, right? Elevation doesn't bother it. When you have a gas stove, elevation bothers it. That's why we don't like to use propane in high altitude or really cold temperatures. We don't like to use propane because that's affected by it. This is not affected by altitude. Technically, everything's affected by cold temperatures. It's going to take longer to boil water in cold temperatures, right? But the burner itself, like, that is unaffected by temperature or wind, for that matter. Wind, right? You're not going to have a flame blowing around. So there's a lot of pros and cons to this that we see, that we like, and we can't wait to get out more and give it more of a testing, because it seems like such a cool system. And their kettle, by the way, the kettle works really great as is. Anyway, thank you guys for watching. Really appreciate it. Check it out. There's a coupon code and a link below. If you use Mark on their website, you get 10% off. Let me know what you guys think. Let me know if you get one. Let me know if you use it, or if you've ever seen anything like this. I think it's a really cool system. Anyway, guys, thank you for watching. Really appreciate it. We'll see you in the next video.